I'm Michael Mills. I'm one of the founding directors of Business Design Corporation and the TouchStone Business System. In the next few minutes, I'm going to present to you a brief demo of what the TouchStone Business System can do to help improve your business. Specifically, I'd like to show you how simple it can be to organize and implement your operating processes to make it easier to train and manage your employees so you can get reliable and predictable results time after time after time. Now, something we hear often from business owners is that while they know they need processes, they don't have a step-by-step functional methodology for getting their company systematized. Many have tried and many have failed. They create a bunch of processes, but the processes don't get used because they're disorganized. They're all in different places. They're in different formats. They're hard to find. So TouchStone makes it easy to systematically create a process-dependent business by integrating your org chart with your processes. It's a very unique idea, distinguishing TouchStone from all of the other tools out there. And we have a proven step-by-step process for making it happen. Here's what we generally recommend that you do. So I'm going to log into a TouchStone account. And the first thing that we typically recommend that you do is go over here to your organizational chart. TouchStone will supply you with a generic org chart that you'll customize and make your own. By clicking on any box, the three dots in each of these boxes, you can edit the chart to make it your own. So you can add positions, you can remove positions, you can edit the names of any of these positions, and you can move boxes around. So if I want to move one of these boxes and place it underneath one of the other positions, everything in TouchStone is drag and drop. Now you can create your existing org chart, or you can create the org chart of the future vision that you have for the business, the structure of your business, say 3, 5, maybe even 7 years from now. And we actually recommend that you do that. Org charts are usually assignments given to you by a consultant. And while creating one is an excellent exercise, it usually gets just filed away. It rarely gets used. In TouchStone, your org chart is always available. It becomes a fluid, dynamic tool that you'll use to grow your business. It'll help you decide who to hire next, what they need to do, how to get them up to speed quickly. It also helps you solve frustrations. It's a remarkably powerful tool. Once your org chart is developed, next you'll begin naming all of the processes and you'll organize them into 4 key functions. You come over here, click on 4 key functions, and you'll notice that there are 4 key functions in your business. And there are 4 key functions in every business. Your business, my business. Everything can get split down into 4 key functions. Guiding the business. These are all of your management and strategic activities for guiding the business from where you are today to where you want to get to. Getting the business. These are all of your sales and marketing activities. Running the business, these are all the activities that are going on behind the scenes, things like administrative processes, human resource type processes, financial activities, IT stuff. And then finally, doing the business. These are your customer service and support activities, all of the processes that are directly related to your clients in the performance of the promises made during your sales process. Naming your processes is easy. Just pick a key function like getting the business, for example, your sales and marketing activities, and you'd ask yourself, what do we do to get new business? And you might say, well, we do pay-per-click advertising on AdWords or Bing, and so we might call it sponsored search. So you come up here and you click Processes, Create, and you give it a process name. Let's call it sponsored search, maybe pay-per-click, and then I click Save. And what else do you do? Well, you might say, we do advertising on LinkedIn. So I click Create a Process, and I give it a process name. Let's call it LinkedIn Lead Generation. And I click Save. What else do we do? Well, we go to trade shows. So we click Processes, Create. We'll call them trade shows. What else do you do? Well, we get referrals, right? But in this case, let's make it an active referral process where we're reaching out to past and present clients for references. And maybe you have strategic alliances. So let's create a process called strategic partnership development and save process. And then when we get a lead, we qualify the lead, right? So let's create a process called lead qualification. And if they're qualified, we might schedule a first appointment. Could be a telephone appointment, could be a site visit, but let's create a process called the appointment process. Then you might create a proposal or an estimate or a contract. Let's call it, what do you think? Let's call it contracts and proposals. And then maybe you've got a sales follow-up process to follow up all of those people that didn't say yes right away. So I think you get the picture. We're basically starting to create a list of all of our processes, and we're organizing them in these 4 key functions. So we've just done getting the business. You'll continue on and you'll identify all of the processes for each of your 4 key functions. So you'll set up the processes for guiding the business, for running the business, for doing the business. Now, in this step, you're not actually writing the processes. You're welcome to do that if you choose, but we recommend that you simply focus on just naming and organizing all of your processes. It's almost like you're creating a table of contents for all of the things that happen in your business. Having this table of contents of all of your processes is going to be very helpful in one of the next steps, in which you'll start prioritizing which processes need to be written first and creating a plan for how those processes are going to be written, by whom and by when. But we'll get to that in a moment. In the next step, you'll link the processes to one or more of the boxes on your org chart. For example, let's click on Sponsored Search, and then I'll come up here and I'll click on Link to Job Description. This will bring up the org chart that we created previously. You select the positions who need access to this process, and then you click Link. You can add processes to more than one position if more than one position needs access to that process. So let's say that both the salesperson and the advertising person need access to this specific process. In doing this, you're going to create position-specific operating manuals automatically for every position in your organization. So now when I go back to the organization chart and click on the salesperson, all those processes have been linked to this box, and a job description for this specific position has been created. And now the employee simply needs to click on a specific process, and all the instructions for that process will be delivered to them. They now know exactly what to do, and their manager knows exactly what the new employee or the existing employee needs to be trained in or held accountable to. So now we have all of the processes identified. We've created the organizational chart. We've linked all of the processes to boxes on the org chart. So we have full functional accountability. Everything that needs to happen in the business has been assigned to a position. Now we're going to assign employees to those positions. I'm going to come up here and click on the gear icon, go to my user accounts. I'm going to create a new user, and let's call him John Smith at, this is bdcdemo.com. That is his email address. We're going to give him a password. I have to retype that password. Enter his first name, his last name. And then I'm going to scroll to the bottom and click Create User. Now John appears over here. I'm going to select John, and I'm going to assign him to a box on the org chart. So when I click Control Panel, the org chart that I created over here pops up. I click Salesperson, and he's a staff person. By that, I mean he doesn't manage anybody. Here's also where I can assign what rights John has. If John is a long-time loyal employee and I would like him to actually help me create my processes, I'm going to click User Access and give him something other than read-only access. There are three types of privileges: read, edit, or create. Let's just leave him, John, as read-only access. But you can see now that not only can we determine what people can see, because John Smith can only see what processes are on his job description, we can also determine what they can do with what they can see. So if I log out now and log back in as John Smith, TouchStone now knows who I am and what I can do. And if I click, because I've assigned myself, John Smith, to be a salesperson, if I click on salesperson, all of the processes I need are served up right here. And if I simply click on one of these processes, again, all of the instructions I need are given to me. Step-by-step instructions for everything I need for this process. If I go over to the organization chart, all of the boxes will be grayed out except for the box that I have been assigned to. And if I've been assigned to more than one box, I could see the processes and the job description for any of those boxes. But right now, I've only been assigned salesperson, so I can click on my box here and all of my processes appear. This is simply another view that we are seeing from the dashboard. All of these processes are the exact same processes that we see here when we click on salesperson. It's just a condensed view, and the user can actually organize their processes in groups to make it easier, again, for them to find their processes. So I used this term earlier, full functional accountability. You've got all of your processes identified, you've got all of your positions organized in your org chart, you've got everything linked together, and now we've taken all of our employees and assigned them to all of the boxes on the org chart. Again, everything that happens in the business has been assigned to a position, and all the employees are now filling those positions. So everything that has to happen has been assigned to someone. All of this usually can be achieved in less than 10 hours. It's a very quick and easy series of steps to take. And then once you've built this systemic foundation of your business, now you'll start prioritizing the writing of your processes. Ask yourself, what are the most important processes that need to get written right now? Now notice that I'm not asking what are the most important processes. I'm asking which are the important ones that need to be written. You might have 50, 80, 100 or more processes, and that can be incredibly overwhelming. But if you prioritize the list you've already created, I mean, maybe your office manager is going on maternity leave, and, getting her processes written would be a very high priority item, even though they aren't the most important processes in the business. And she could even get them written for you, following one of the outlines or templates that TouchStone has already made available to you. Or maybe getting processes written for your next hire. Maybe you're going to hire a new salesperson. Clicking on your org chart and then clicking on the salesperson's position will give you a list of all of the processes that need to be written for that position. This minimizes the overwhelm. Now, instead of thinking of the hundreds of processes that need to be written, your focus is on the 10, 12, or 15 processes that are on this job description. That's palatable. That's easy to do. Okay, so now you're going to start writing your processes. And as I said, you can pick a specific position. You can pick a specific department in your company. Lots of different ways, but you're looking for what are the most important processes to get written now. So let's start talking about how to write a process. First of all, we have many pre-written processes that are sitting in our general process library. So you can come over here to the 4 key functions section. And if you come up to this button here, library, you'll see a button called general processes. If you select that, you'll see a whole series of processes that you can download into your account. Maybe you need an accounts payable process, an accounts receivable process. Maybe you need a process for creating budgets or for cash flow planning. Maybe a new employee onboarding, a new employee orientation, new employee interviewing, new employee search. You can actually download these processes into your account and then edit them. So there are a lot of processes that you can download into your system. So let's say you want to write a collections process. I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I'm going to download the collections process from the library and put it in the finance subfunction in under running the business. So I've downloaded this process called collections. If you were writing this process from scratch, you would start by coming up here and saying processes, create. You'd type in the word collections, and then you would click save, and then you would open it. And typically we recommend that you should go into this section right here and write a sentence or two that describes what is this process. Not how you do it, but what is this process? What is the purpose of this process? So you'll see in here we've got collect all past due money before 90 days outstanding. And then you'll hit save. The process name and the process objective appear on the job description for the specific position. So if I link this to, say, the bookkeeper who's doing the collections process, and then I go to my organization chart and look at the bookkeeper position right here. So here you'll see, here's the process name and the objective. So let's go back and let's pretend that this process has not been written. So we're going to just write this process. First thing we typically want to do is we want to create a work plan. So you would click on this work plan title, and you would type in the work plan name. So in this case, the name of the work plan, collecting past due accounts receivable, and you would click create work plan. And this is going to open up the template for doing a step-by-step sequential set of instructions for how do you collect accounts receivable. How does it start? Well, you would type in just before or immediately after an invoice is mailed, call the client to be sure that they received and are satisfied with their product or service. Again, this is completely related to how you do your accounts receivable. But the idea here is to make sure that you don't follow up with them in 30 days and say, where's our money? You've called them right away and said, was everything to your satisfaction? So they totally, it's a customer service thing, but it's also setting it up so that there shouldn't be any problem for collecting the money because they said they were satisfied, everything was golden. And we've created a script here. So this is where processes can be more complex. And in other systems, you would have a document for the script and a document for how to do the collections. And maybe you've even got 3 or 4 other documents that are part of your collections letters. In TouchStone, they're all organized under one process name and then linked to that one position. So we've really only got one process with a collection of process tools. And you can hyperlink to them. So this script, in fact, we've got 2 different scripts here. One is for the initial call to advise that the client will receive an invoice shortly, and the other is if they haven't paid, it's for the collection call. And we hyperlink. You can actually click on these scripts right here, but you can also hyperlink to these scripts so that if you're in the work plan and following the script, you don't have to know where to go. It's just going to go right to that spot. So we click initial call script, and we can say, hello, Jane, this is Michael Mills from Business Design Corporation. I'm just calling to follow up with the installation we did recently. I wanted to make sure everything turned out okay. etc., etc. So you're trying to nip anything in the bud that might come out to bite you later. Then in the next step, you run an accounts receivable aging report. And normally we don't necessarily say that you have to put a whole plan together for how to run an AR report, because if you have a bookkeeper, they probably know how to do an accounts receivable aging report. But what we are suggesting is that you run this AR report, and then you do this, and then you do that, and step by step you walk through these processes. Now, this was an existing process that we downloaded from the library. You can click anywhere. Everything in TouchStone is click to edit. So you can go in here and edit anything. If this were a brand new process, we would be adding a task, do this, step by step, put that in there, and then we would click save, and then we would say add a task, and walk through the process. You'll also notice at the bottom of a work plan, we have what's called the expectations section. And this is, what are the expectations or standards or behaviors that are related to this process? So, like, the accounts receivable report should be run weekly. Any invoices 60 days will be handed to the president for follow-up. Any payment plans discussed with the clients will be documented and reviewed to be sure the plan is executed according to the client's commitment. So, the client says, okay, I'm going to send you a check next week. You put that in the notes somewhere. You could put that in, usually it's in some sort of contact management application that you're using, so that next week, or you could even put it in Outlook, next week you call the person if you haven't received the check, because they said they would send you the check. And so you said last week you'd send me the check. So these are expectations that you would put into the work plan. So you'll notice that this process is a little complex. We have a script for calling the client to let them know that the project's done. You're going to be getting your invoice shortly. Are you happy? Now they don't pay you for whatever reason. We've got a sample script for how to reach out to that client. Quick word about scripts. These scripts are not meant to be read over the telephone. They're meant to be workshopped. So when you have a new person in who's doing your collections, you train them, you manage them, and you hold them accountable to these key concepts of a script. And then again, there are some sample collection letters. Normally these collection letters might be part of your QuickBooks system or something like that. But again, you can take these collection letters, and these are Word files. You can send them right from here. You can just open them right up and put in the client's information in it, fill in the appropriate data, and send them directly from here. So this is an example of a fairly simple process. I mean, it has a work plan, a couple of scripts, and some uploaded files. Some processes will be more complex. For example, you might have a process that needs a checklist completed. You might have a process that needs a custom form filled in, or a process that includes videos for training or audios for training. So there are 8 different process tools available to you. The work plan is the step-by-step sequential workflow. Do this, then do that, then do this. Checklist is typically used for quality assurance to make sure something's getting done and people are paying attention to all of the different steps in the process. But it's something that is an instrument. It's a tool that gets filled in so a manager can look to see that everything's been done. We've talked a little bit about scripts, uploaded files. These can be contracts like Word documents that have extensive formatting. They can be spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, PDF files like manuals for specific pieces of equipment, for example. The document tool is basically just a big whiteboard where anything can be written. A custom form we modeled after the Google Forms tool. Policies for a specific process, and then obviously videos and audios. Again, I think it's important to note that all of these process tools are consolidated and organized under one process name that is then linked to the specific position that is supposed to be following this process. And the consolidation of the process tools that are related under one process name, it really reduces the overall number of processes in your company, making it that much easier to find what you're looking for. Everything related to a specific process is gathered under one process name and then linked to the position who's accountable for it. So writing processes really couldn't be easier. You're simply Going to access the 4 key functions section, select to create a process, give it a name, and then proceed to one of the process tools. So this is what writing processes would look like. Remember, certain people in the organization have the rights to write processes, and others are just going to follow processes. Most of your users will just be following processes, and they won't be in the guts of the application like we are here. So let me just link this to the salesperson, because that is the position that we've been using. So your salesperson is responsible for doing collections. So I'm going to log out and log back in as the salesperson. I think the salesperson was John Smith. So remember, John is now responsible for collections. John logs in and clicks on salesperson, and he needs to follow the collections process. He simply looks for it on his job description here and pops up here, and he looks at the collecting past due accounts receivable. Maybe the bookkeeper has given him a report saying, you gotta follow up with these, John. Or maybe John needs to make that initial call to say something about how did the project go? So he simply clicks that and his script pops up. He can use this script, but again, what I said earlier, it's not about reading this. It's really used for workshopping someone and teaching them how to say what they need to say. And then if he has to make a deeper collections call because someone has said that they're behind the 8 ball and paying, he's going to come here and he's going to follow this script here. Everything is neatly organized and offered up on the positions dashboard. Each of your employees is simply one click away from accessing everything they need to do exactly as you want it done. There are no excuses. And no longer do managers and new employees need to hunt for the instructions they need to be able to achieve the expectations you have of them. Now you have full accountability, ensuring all of your employees are trained in exactly what they need to be trained in. And again, the dashboard is mobile compliant, so an employee can access work plans, complete checklists, fill in forms right from their phone, tablet, or their computer. You will also use TouchStone to train both new employees as well as ongoing training for those existing employees who are not achieving your expectations. As each process tool is trained, you'll mark it as trained, and TouchStone will automatically date and timestamp the training completion. So I'm going to log back out as John Smith and log back in as Michael Mills. I'm going to come up here to the user accounts, and I'm going to make myself manager of marketing and sales. And I'm going to remove myself as the salesperson because we have John as the salesperson. All right, so John is the salesperson and I am the manager of sales and marketing. So now when I go to the dashboard, this is my position, and these will be all the people in the positions that report to me. So if I had multiple people in multiple positions, they'd all be listed in this block that says management review. When I'm training John, I'll click on his name as in the position of salesperson, and I'll just start at the first process called sponsored pay per click, and I will walk through the specific process to be trained. So we'll just go through all of this information. Once it's done, I'm going to ask John, so does that make sense to you? Do you have any questions? He says no. I say great. And maybe I could write a training note in here, and then I'll click save. And you'll notice that it now puts a check mark beside that specific process. And if there were multiple process tools in this process, I would train each one of them. And when I'm done, I click train all. This timestamps when I trained John in this process. So if I come here, I can see that it was March 4th, 2020, 4:13 p.m. that I actually trained him. There is a section in here to put notes. If I have to train someone multiple times in one or more process tools, that's notable for me. Either the employee is choosing not to follow the processes, Or it's possible that the process is just too challenging to follow or difficult to understand, in which case it needs to be reviewed and edited. But again, if I was to train him multiple times, I would make notes in this section and click Save. So the training of a new employee is simple. Just walk through each of the process tools on each of the processes until all of the process tools on that specific job description have been checked off. But TouchStone is so much more than a simple training application. It's designed to be a process implementation tool so you can not only train your employees, but manage them and hold them accountable to the processes that they agreed to follow. You've got full reports to enable you to see who's done what over time. And this is really useful for managers to keep tabs on whether or not someone has completed a checklist or filled in a form. One other thing, at the top right side of the screen, you'll see this button called the Resource Center. Anyone can access the Resource Center. Here you're going to find training videos, a knowledge base, webinars, tons of valuable content to make creating your process-dependent business that much easier. There's also a place where you can contact support. We have unlimited support. And finally, we have data migration services. So if you have content already built, we can quickly and easily get you up to speed in days. In fact, if you register for the free 30-day trial, we'll get your content built into your new TouchStone trial account so you can experience how well the application works using your own data. So I hope this overview has been helpful. I was hoping it would be a little quicker than it was. If you'd like to take a deeper dive, register for a free 30-day trial. If you choose to continue with your subscription after your trial period, we're offering unlimited users this year in 2020. So don't delay. Start your free trial now and schedule a time to talk to us. We're looking forward to seeing if TouchStone can solve your process implementation challenges. Thank you.